Hello and welcome to our final presentation for our case study dealing with responsibility, challenges and SMEs. This is Matthias, I'm Joachim, and we are part of the Sharpen team 2019. We are studying business administration in the first semester at the University of Applied Sciences in Zwickau. First of all, I want to present you our agenda. We will give a short introduction to the organization and industry, which includes the HR process in the company, the HR challenges and the goal setting. Later, we will speak about the literature review, the methodology, the findings and analysis, and our practical tool, and also about the lessons we learned. The Tremendous Tech Group. This is the anonymized name of the company which is focused on our case study, and we choose this name because it's a technical medium-sized enterprise which was founded in the year 2002, and 7 years later it moved to a city near the border of Western Saxony because of too many new employees. The company employs around 140 employees, and 1/3 of them joined the company in the last 2 to 3 years. You can see it here, the red line is on 140, and this green line is the plan for 2019, for the end of the year. And another special thing about this graphic was the year 2010, because it was the foundation of the HRM department in this company, and maybe that's the reason for faster development since this year. The products of the Tremendous Tech Group are network technology and the included services. There are measuring devices to find errors and flaws in machines, and the services are including the measuring and analyzing of machines, the troubleshooting in networks. One problem with the preventive measures is that nearly nobody will invest in preventive things if there is no experience about the things which could happen. So that's the reason why there is a really huge marketing department in this SME, which contains around 10 employees, and this is uncommonly big. In the year 2004 there were the first sales of 1 million euro, and in 2018 the sales increased to 13 to 14 million euro. So there's a really immense growth. And there are many partner companies in different countries like China, India, Russia, the USA, South Africa and Brazil. And they are producing for well-known companies like BMW, Volkswagen, Audi, Continental and furthermore many national partners. Now I want to talk about the HR processes in the company. The HRM department contains 2 employees. And on this graphic you can see some gear wheels, and there are 2 gear wheels which are uncommonly big. This is recruitment and the personal marketing, because in our opinion those processes are the most important processes in the company. Let's start with the first point, the recruitment. They try to solve this process intern, but in difficult cases they use help by externs. Another process is the employment law. Furthermore, there are staff talks with supervisors and subordinates. They have to develop near salary models. And another big point for this company is the event organization, which is a part of the personnel marketing. Furthermore, they have to deal with intern and external employer branding, but only the payment is done through an external payroll office. Okay, the HR challenges in the company. There are many communication challenges, for example staff talks with the marketing department. And another point is the fast growth, as I said before, and the staff is pretty young in this company because the average age is around 36 to 37 years. And here's another graphic, you can see Saxony and the different departments of Saxony with the average age. So the youngest average age is around 40.2 years. So yes, you can see the average age in the Tremendous Tech Group is pretty young. Another point is that there is an interesting attitude of the HR manager in this company. He said that if you want to leave, leave. This implies that the offer of potential employees is high enough. So there's another challenge, the talent management, the intentional selection of staff that you can develop. Another growth problem for the company is to deal with a recruiting software. This software is pretty new in the company. It exists around 1 year, so there's a huge time requirement needed. The next challenge for the company is the integration of employees, mainly the international employees. There are 4 international workers in this company, and 3 of them are from Russia, India and Syria. They are used in an area where the German language is not that essential, for example in the English-speaking part of the marketing. The fourth one is doing a training and he comes from China. The job profiles for the international workers are really extensive because the three I spoke first are bachelor or master graduates. Okay, and the main challenge which we want to focus on our case study is another result of the fast growth of the company, because there's a big responsibility for the individual worker. So there's a challenge especially for the young workers in the company, because the problem is that the development of their personality can't keep up with the increasing responsibility. Okay, here you can see our goal setting, the goals we want to reach with our case study. The main goal is to improve the recruitment process in part of the increasing responsibility for the employee. So we want to increase the chance of durable and sustainable growth, and for this we developed a practical tool to offer solutions for an evaluation of the applicants. So there will be some questions which fit into every job interview. But before we were able to work on this, we needed to have a literature review. So we got access to our topic with a closer look on some important literature. And the primary source was the concept of the 10 stages of recruitment and selections developed by Armstrong in the year 2013. This model in particular helped us to get an overview on the topic. You can see the recruitment processes split it into 10 different steps, and we tried to work on every step and find out what you can improve and how. So we connected the phases with ideas for a more successful selection and recruitment process. Because in our opinion, the given processes in the tremendous tech group are failing if the young people are getting overwhelmed with too much responsibility and leave the company. So first we want to have a look on step 1, defining requirements. There are two different opportunities. The more typical way are short-term demands, because they are often occur because of expansion, new posts or replacements. But the more ideal way would be a workforce plan, which sets the required numbers and categories of people needed. Unfortunately, SMEs normally do not have enough information about their future. So the role profiles and person specifications are including the requirements. The tremendous tech group has already to define the requirements and person specifications like knowledge, skills and abilities, qualification and training, and also some special requirements like an extraordinary sense of responsibility. All those arguments are getting supported by the concept of the role of recruitment and training in SMEs by Abduli in the year 2013. Because Abduli states that one of the most important processes in human resource management is the planning of the given and needed resources, because this step is the basic requirement for all the other management activities. And in our opinion, the well-known saying, think before you act, summarizes this first step pretty good. Next step, step 2, attracting candidates. You have to identify potential sources of candidates. Strengths and weaknesses of the organization should get judged through various studies. And in our opinion, this is the most important part of external employer branding. So there has to be a creating of an inviting overview for applicants. Now we'll follow the steps 3, 4, 5 and 6. Sifting and testing applicants. First you have to sift out the inappropriate applicants, and the next step is to invite suitable candidates for a job interview. Because an interview is the most familiar way of selection, because it involves a face-to-face discussion. After this interview will follow the associated tests, and at the end it is essential to evaluate the results for the applicants. Through the interviewing, the practical tool helps to gain information about the possible future employee in the terms of responsibility. You will see the practical tool later. And yes, some of the last steps are steps 7 and 8, obtaining references and checking applications. Those steps are including the obtaining and checking of confidential factual information. So you have to check on completeness and authenticity. The applicant should be asked about his former workplaces and the included working conditions. Lastly, the human resource manager has to control the received letters of application. The last 12 steps, offering employment and following up. The final stage in the selection procedure, after everything else has been settled, is the offering of employment. Following up contains several different processes like the integration and the development of the worker. After this literature review, we worked on the methodology, and Matthias will go on with it.
Thank you, Joachim. So, our methodology consisted of 5 steps. First, visiting the company. Second, interviewing the HR manager, focusing on specific issues. Then using emails and phone calls. And last but not least, using literature and research. While visiting the company, we gained some general information about the enterprise and the HR processes and challenges. And for the interview, we prepared really well. It was face-to-face, and after that we focused on the specific issues through analyzing the data of the interview and the results. We then used the emails and phone calls to get some more information, and last but not least, use the literature and some research to finally get solutions that will work for other small and medium-sized enterprises too. Next off, our findings and analysis. It is the unfortunate truth that especially young people quit their job because they are overwhelmed with the fast rise of responsibility. That was the quote from the HR manager of the tremendous tech group. And the point that we found out first is that their personal development cannot keep up with the fast increasing responsibility. And this is why we made the decision to write this case study. And combining the use of literature and the researched information, it was clear that the reason for the name problem is found in the recruitment and selection process. Next off, you can consider responsibility an ability or a skill, which is why it's comparable to other skills, like teamwork, the organization of various tasks, or communicating effectively. All of these previous named capabilities, except for responsibility, are already accessible. One of the reasons why the companies need to solve the problems right at the beginning of the recruiting. It is possible to split the process into 10 steps, like Armstrong already stated, or like it's already stated by Armstrong. And the enterprise is able to focus on finding the right future employee in every single one of those 10 steps. Right. For example, in the first step of attracting candidates, the company has to define normal as well as special requirements in the role profile and person specifications. And at this point, it is already necessary to state that the advertised job is placed in a growing business. That is why the applicant has to keep in mind that the responsibility he has to handle will rise rapidly. After this part has been considered, applicants have the possibility to make their own decision whether they are able to operate in that working area or not. But since the increase in responsibility comes with a higher position, many people might feel attracted towards joining the company, although they may not be capable of doing so. Sorry. Right. And that is the reason why the external employer branding is really important. It is essential to mention that the fourth step of the model from Armstrong is the most important one in our opinion, because while interviewing, the applicant is fully observable in terms of facial expression, gestures, and whatever he speaks. And since the interviewee does not have as much time to answer the questions, he is more honest, and it's easier to detect if he's lying or not completely true or honest. And the practical tool we created was to unmistakably make sure whether the applicant fits the job profile or not. So next off, we're going to take a look at the practical human resource management tool we created. We designed a practical human resource tool including prepared questions for the step of interviewing. It's meant to only be seen and used by the interviewer who reads out the questions specifically to find out about the applicant's will to take responsibility. Through a rating, the interviewer is able to compare the different applicants and the questionnaire is only intended to capture the interviewee's opinion on taking responsibility, so there are no particularly wrong answers. And the key feature of this tool is a fictional situation. There are possible answers given, and the example situation still needs the personal evaluation of the HR manager, because the applicant should not know the sample answers. And to complete the final rating, the interviewer has to assess the received answers from a scale from 1 to 5, lower equals worse. And this is the base of giving every applicant a certain score and comparing them each individually. It can be considered a disadvantage that the human resource manager takes a big accountability, because making personal evaluations is perchance not as objective as it should be, and the practical tool nevertheless has been designed for an easy and self-explanatory use by small and medium-sized enterprises which consider themselves as a growing business. Next up, we're going to take a look at the practical tool and how we designed it. As you can see, on the top right corner you can write the name of the company, and on the top left the symbol of the company. Then there are some general informations about the name of the interviewer, the name of the applicant, and the date. And on the bottom half of this part of the questionnaire there is a guideline to show the interviewer how to evaluate the applicant. Next off, in the lower half of this page, there are the questions of the questionnaire about responsibility, and the interviewer should react to the following situations from his own perspective. The interviewer has to evaluate the answers by the guidelines, and now we're going to take a look at one question in particular to show that there are no wrong questions, or no really wrong questions. So the question is called, or it's more like the saying, sometimes it's best to bury your head in the sand and just wait and see what happens. So it's not particularly wrong to say that you disagree with the statement, because not finishing a project if it's not looking good is nothing bad, but taking responsibility and still trying to succeed is the thing that is searched for in this question. The last page of the practical tool is our example situation. It's really complex and more relevant for the final rating. You can see it right here. Its rating is doubled, and there are sample answers given. You can see here. It's still pretty objective, but it should help the interviewer make a more it's still pretty subjective, but it should help the interviewer make a more objective evaluation of the applicant. And right at the bottom you can see the final rating. It goes up to 40 points, and it should help the interviewer compare, or the HR manager compare different applicants to each other. Last but not least, I'm going to talk about the lessons we've learned in this module. And first of all, of course, we improved our English skills, especially in terms of HRM terms. And we gained a lot of international experience in the ISP. It was great to talk to each other, to share experiences, to share different opinions, and just make those experiences and make great, share laughs and everything. It was a really great time. Next off, while organizing the multiplier event, we learned a lot about event organization in general. It was really hard, but nevertheless we learned a lot. We learned a lot about presenting, since we presented a lot of presentations in this module, especially in the ISP. And of course, speaking in front of people. If you have to present a lot, you learn how to speak in front of people. And that's pretty much it. Here you can see our references, and thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask.